So, I've got to come clean. I've made quite a big mistake actually in one of my recent videos where I tested the fuel injectors on Elsa, the Volvo 740. Now, as most of you know, I've had a warm start issue on this car for a long time. Most of you have heard this probably 6 or 7 times, but for any new viewers, it's important that I do explain what's happening, and maybe some of you forgot. So this car would start okay when it's cold and start okay when it's hot, but when it's warm I'd have a problem. So after a run, after it's been sitting for sort of more than 10 or 15 minutes, just as it starts to cool down slightly but it's not completely cool, it would be a problem. Hit the key, it would crank and crank and crank, it wouldn't fire. It would take a very long time, or it wouldn't fire at all. If you open the throttle, you press the accelerator all the way down, it would definitely help. It would start sometimes straight away or much quicker. I've tried everything on the car, pretty much every component that it could be related to the issue I've either replaced or I've checked, tested. Couldn't get to the bottom of it. One of those things that I thought that I'd covered was the fuel injectors. I did think that they were leaking. There was a few of you that did suggest that the fuel injectors could be leaking. I tested them, or so I thought, and I thought that they were okay, but, well, I thought I farted, but I shit myself, as the saying goes, because they weren't okay. When I tested them, they weren't leaking, but it's quite obvious now that the issue is when the injectors were warm. One or more of them were obviously leaking when they were hot. When they were warm, they were obviously dribbling a bit of fuel. Hence why holding open the throttle is helping, or did help. It's that extra airflow, isn't it, to clear out that extra fuel, to match that extra fuel. So yeah, swapped over the fuel rail from both cars, put the 240 rail on the 740. They're both LH 2.2 cars. Built it all up, no problem. It starts now, absolutely fine. Warm, hot, whatever you like. Hit the key, couple of cranks, she fires up. So there we go. So it was leaking injectors after all. I mean, of course, it has to have been. These injectors here, I don't know what I'm going to do with them. Spilling fuel everywhere. Yeah, I don't really know, but obviously if we can save these injectors, we will, because they're really expensive. So I had a package turn up today. These chrome wheel trims were my original idea, my original dream for this car for a very long time, but I could never find a set. They were hard to find. When I did find a set, they'd be like 200 euros. I'm going to remove these wheels, even though I just fitted them, and we're going to try out these chrome trims. Now, a lot of you would say you'd be crazy to fit wheel caps, wheel trims, hubcaps instead of these very nice alloys, but we're going to see how it looks, because it's the idea that I always had for this car. So I'm going to try these wheels on, which were off this car, the wagon, and yeah, we're going to try these on for size and see how it looks. It's probably going to look weird now because these are 15-inch and the caps and those wheels are 14-inch, so they're probably going to look too small. Someone mentioned this the other day when I was talking about these 240 wheels. They said that they tried to swap wheels over and it didn't work because of the pin that was on the brake disc, and there was no hole in the wheel there. It's funny because on that one there is. These are the same wheels, but just on this car. So those two wheels have holes in. These two wheels don't. I think the only way now is to put a 10mm bolt into there. I'm going to have to find something that's not too deep. It's a couple of threads longer, virtually nothing at all. So this is the most exciting Volvo content you're ever going to see. Guess it can go on anyway. it. It does look good. It's funny that the tyre is a commercial tyre. It says Van Smart on it. It is looking a bit commercial, isn't it? With that style, with that setup. Looking ready for duty. Looking a bit like a coach. There we go. What do we think? I think the tyres are too big, but if you go down a tyre size, then the wheels in general are too small overall for a 740. It's a bit like the problem I've got on Lily. You take any more off the tyre, you have a pretty big arch gap. But with that extra sidewall on a 14-inch, it just takes that little bit out of the arches just to make it look a little bit nicer. But yeah, I think that looks good. She looks, I don't know why it's making me think of a Japanese car now. An 80s Japanese car. Looks a bit more, looks older, I would say, doesn't it? Move this out of the way. I like it, but it's growing on me the more I look at it now that the other Sirius alloy is off and I can get the full picture. It's looking very original, older, and a little bit cooler in some way. I like the originality it's giving the car. So that's 185, 70, 14, as opposed to what basically was 185, 80, 14 before. Bit small, aren't they? Obviously the problem is it's the way the car sits. You know, you'd need to lower it slightly or do something, or, you know, fit bigger size alloys in the first place, but like I did do. But yeah, either way, you're gonna have too much tyre or too much gap. You get a fist and the rest in there. It's just too much. Tough one.